feels like I've got this sweater on the wrong way around. Hello and welcome to the October 2022 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. And I should have done this earlier, but I'm going to make myself more comfortable. There we go. Hello, my name's Leslie and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet, machine knitting, spinning, weaving, general yarn stuff, recorded on the south coast of the UK. Thank you for being here. Whether it's your first time or you've been here many times before, you are very welcome and I'm very glad to have you here. I record throughout the month and then put all the clips together and post on the last weekend of the month. That's for all the craft and yarny stuff. I also do a weekly vlog, which used to be called Not Quite Enough Distance because it started during COVID. Now it's Not Quite Enough Pick Your Own Adventure. Sometimes it's not quite enough time, not quite enough footage of my dog, whatever. So those are the things that you'll see on this channel. I call it the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast because although I have a lot, I rarely have enough to make a garment in all the same colour. So there are often stripes, blocks, fades, edgings in different colour, that kind of thing. Now in theory, when this podcast started back in 2018, let me go that long, 2018, I was hoping to get my yarn stash down to fit in 2 cupboards. Since that time I've got a 3rd cupboard and I do have assorted boxes and containers all over the place because I have the very lucky habit of often being given yarn and generally acquiring yarn. And this month's no exception. More on that later. But still seldom enough for a garment, certainly a sweater. I mean, a pair of gloves I can normally manage, but a sweater all in one colour. So that's why it's got the name it has. If I am wearing any hand knits, comme ça, I will put the details in the notes below. But I will tell you that this is Pure Fuzz from Skein Deer. And I made it using 2 strands of a boucle that I got on a cone. In fact, the boucle is sitting there. And I held those 2 strands with a magic ball that I'd Russian joined lots of my 4-ply fingering weight yarns together to make this sweater, which is one of my faves. So yes, any hand knits, the details will be in the notes. Make along. We're in the final quarter of the clearly not quite enough yarn make-along, sweater mal, something like that. The idea being that to be eligible to be drawn for a prize, you make a garment, which can be short or long sleeve, using more than one yarn and clearly more than one yarn. So if you're holding for example, a 4-ply and a mohair together, but it's the same all the way through, I'm afraid that's not eligible. But if you can definitely see the demarcation of where one yarn changes to the next, you're all okay. And buy different yarns. These can be from different dyers or manufacturers. They can be from the same manufacturer but different bases. So if you've got, I was talking to someone recently and they were saying lots of different sock yarns which are all the same base but from different dyers, that would count, as long as you can clearly see that the bit here is different to the bit there, or you know, however it's marked. It doesn't necessarily have to be a striped, but you have to be able to see that it's 2 different yarns within the garment. What else can I tell you about that? We've just got 1 quarterly draw still to go, which will be at the end of December. I'll probably draw it in January to be able to include up to the end of December. And I will also draw for every entry that's taken part since we started this in May. The entry is via Ravelry, so there is a Ravelry thread on the Not Quite Enough Yarn board on Ravelry. If you're not able to use Ravelry, please email me at notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com. If you'd like your picture included and you're happy for me to put that onto the Ravelry thread, please send that as well and let me know that you're happy for it to be used. I won't identify you, I'll just put initials so that I have a cross-reference, that I know I've put the right post in the right place, sort of thing. The drawers, when I do the drawers, I've got to stop saying drawers. When I do the draw, I use random number generator for the posts in the thread, and of the first couple that I pick, the first one that has a picture wins a physical prize, so that might be yarn, might be a bag or something like that. Probably yarn because I lack imagination, but that's fine. And if it's a comment, then it's a pattern prize up to a value of $12. So you're more than welcome to go on the thread, and I know some people do this and they look through and they give encouragement to people and say, lovely sweater, love your colours. And some people go on there and say, these are my colours, what do you think? Would this be better than that? That kind of thing. The garment doesn't have to be finished. If it could be 3/4 finished by the end of the year, that would be great. And whips were allowed at the beginning, but given that we're now in October, I mean, if you had something that was no more than a quarter started by the beginning of May and you now want to finish it, go for it. Or work on it rather, because you don't have to finish it. I think that's it for the moment on the make along. So I record throughout the month and put the clips together and upload them on the last weekend of the month. Also, every week I do a Not Quite Enough vlog. It used to be called Not Quite Enough Distance because it started during COVID. Now it's more sort of Not Quite Enough Time, Not Quite Enough Pictures of my dog. It's an open category now. So those are the kind of general intro remarks, I think. Yeah, apart from to say a huge thank you to everyone who has commented on the previous podcast or on the vlogs. Always lovely to hear from you, always great to hear your ideas, so thank you. And by all means do comment on this podcast. Put your comments below, and love to hear from you. Thank you very much for being interactive. So this month, what have we acquired this month, Leslie? Well, this month, my birthday month. But before then, my husband, the lesser spotted himself, I say the lesser spotted because he's not been around much. He's often away. Since he retired, well, to be fair to him, he retired, then he was ill for a while, all fine now, and then lockdown came, so all the things he had planned suddenly couldn't happen. So this year, a lot of the sporting events, music events, those sorts of things that he had tickets for are now being staged, played as appropriate. So he's been away a lot. In addition to this, we have a nephew who's a very talented golfer, so he goes along to support him in competitions. So he's away a lot, but he sometimes comes back with yarn. And when he does that, he's a good lad. So he did this, this was from Scotland, when he was watching professionals playing golf, not the nephew. I got terribly confused. I was telling all the relatives that nephew was playing at St Andrews, which he has done in the past, but he wasn't this time. But hubby was at St Andrews to watch a competition, the Dunhill, I think. But he got me some yarn. So we have some lovely things here. So these buttes are by Rico and they're called Creative Melange. They're chunky weight, 85 metres for 50 grams. I love the colours of these. The teal, that's more like it. It's a sort of slightly greener teal. Yeah, that looks bluer. So, what do we have here? 53% virgin wool and 47% acrylic. And I love the colours on this. So, that's all a bit fabulous. Let's move from one side to the other, Leslie. Haven't dropped anything on the floor yet, but the day is young. He also got this lovely, That's fairly accurate. 100% baby alpaca from And They All Lived Alpacally Ever After. 50 grams, 112 metres, and that is in the plum colourway. And then he got a couple of balls of Dye Gilpin Lalland, which he also got me last year when he was in St Andrews, so I'm building up a bit of a collection. These are 100% lamb's wool, 50 grams, 175 metres. And this is the Bell Rock colourway, and this is Chartreuse. So that's all a bit fabulous. Not sure what I'm going to do with those. I think the chunky yarn will become a hat, but I'm not sure. Then I had a birthday, and one thing I haven't said yet about on the podcast is my username on all social media, but a friend of mine got me a drinks bottle which shows it beautifully. So if you want to find me on any social media, I am knittingordeath. I used to be on Twitter, but I've stopped using that because it's not a happy place, Twitter, is it, as a rule? But Instagram, Ravelry, that's my handle. So I've got this wonderful drinks bottle with my name on. Also got some fabulous chocolates, which I'm not in a position to show you right now. They're from Hotel Chocolat, and I opened the box and said to my husband, oh, that's my favourite hotel. But a lovely friend got me a fabulous Halloween colourway yarn, which I haven't skeined back up very neatly. This is from Floof Fibre. 4-ply sock, merino nylon 80/20, 100 grams, 365 metres, high twist, in the Haunted House colourway. And these colours are wonderful. I'm fond of strong colours, as we know. So. Then, after my birthday, the day after my birthday as it happened, I went to London to visit Barb, who was over from Canada. She was visiting family, she was seeing various parts of the UK, and she said, would you be able to meet, which delighted to do. And she very kindly gave me some presents as well. Now Barb makes bags. I think she used to have an Etsy shop, she doesn't at the moment, but she still makes these fabulous bags. So I've got this wonderful Christmas bag here, and it's got Christmas pattern inside as well, and it's lovely. And I didn't realise until after I'd podcast about it on the weekly podcast, a little stitch marker too, beaded one. So that is lovely. And being a Canadian, she bought me a Canadian souvenir. Look at that. It's so cute. I have done lots of beaver jokes. They're on the weekly podcast, which ends the 7th of October. So any requirement of beaver jokes, head there. I'm not going to do them all again. I think I'm probably on a bit of a boundary as to bad taste as far as YouTube's concerned, so I'm going to behave myself, mostly. But this is so soft. It's so cute. So it was lovely to see Barb, and we went yarn shopping. Now, because it had been my birthday the day before, I had some birthday money to spend, which is the best sort of money to spend. I tried to justify my purchases, given that I'm in theory not buying yarn, as turning a virtual gift into a substance gift. You know, there have been cries of, I'm going to politely say, nonsense on that. But anyway, I didn't buy all yarn with my birthday money. Then again, I spent more than my birthday money, but I move on. So I got a couple of magazines. And the first one is Making Stories. This is the Spring 2022 issue number 7. And this is a magazine that I've been interested in for a while and finally managed to get a copy. And there's one particular sweater in here which I think is rather fabulous, or cardigan rather. So this is the Cigar cardigan by, I don't know if it's Martha or Marta Ferodden, but that is very pretty. I like these little braids here and down the edges as well. So that is rather lovely and may well go on the, I don't know if it'll actually be on the queue or the virtual queue. I have this virtual queue of patterns that I think are gorgeous, but I will never make. But I think I could see myself making that one, so that could be rather lovely. I also got a copy of Liner magazine, and this is number 15, which was autumn 2022. And I've marked a few pages in here. Now, I know Liner has had a kind of up and down past. I like this magazine, fairly size inclusive, seems to have a good-ish representation of designers and makers, so you know I'm happy with that, because obviously it's all about me, but I mean it's my money, so where I spend it I need to be happy. It is a bit one on the fancy photography. I can appreciate quite artistic photography, but I am wondering about the value of that. And you can't help but think to yourself, get a vase, love. I thought, what is that? It's also hiding a very nice top, which I shall show you in a moment because it's a very nice top. But yeah, you know, sometimes in life you just think, I'm too old for this now. Yeah. But we have a couple of very nice sweaters in here, and this is called Ginger by Bernice Lim, who is also known as Yamagara. And I think that's rather nice, got a textured front and some cable pieces in it, so I think that's rather lovely. The top being hidden by the vase of flowers in the jeans is, oh, Leslie, this one here. And again, there's some nice texture in there. And this is called Adventitious by Olga Pitano. So yeah, nice top. If I were to make that, I would probably put longer sleeves on it. I tend not to make knitted tees, but also with this, you've got some interesting interviews. You've got Jeanette Sloan with Rose Sinclair. So lots of good stuff in here. Very pretty patterns. I won't show you them all, but they are rather lovely. And bought some yarn. So, what did we get? Well, this is Gusto wool, Carmen. We've got this fabulous red and speckled greens. No idea what I'm going to do with this, but I just thought it was pretty. And that being the yarn buying practice that has led to me having a lot of yarn and not enough for a single item. But that's okay, because lots of pretties together can make uber pretty, can't they? Can't they? She said, hopefully. This next one is by Black Elephant. And I just thought this was so striking. It's the Merlin base. Oh, I didn't tell you what this was, sorry. It is... Come on, tell Auntie Leslie what you're made of. 80% merino, 20% nylon, 400 metres per 100 grams. So that's the Gusto. This is Black Elephant Merlin, 90% superwash merino, 10% linen. 100 grams, 360 metres, so again fingering 4-ply weight. And I just thought this was very, very striking. So you've got essentially a very dark yarn, but so many other colours in there. It's almost like they're revealed. I don't know anything about dyeing, but I could almost imagine that you've got this sort of bright coloured yarn and then you stop the new dye getting to bits of it, and then you over dye with a darker colour. I'm probably talking nonsense, but that's the image it gives to me, because you've got all these other fabulous bits of colour in here, and some speckles, and just absolutely lovely. And being merino and linen, it feels pretty nice as well. And then I bought enough for a sweater, not all of the same colour, but mostly. So I've got 4 of these. This is Queensland Collection, Perth, Australian Superwash Wool Blend in the Lake Gardener colour. And this is 80% superwash wool, 20% nylon. And some show better than others, but you've got basically stripes of pale into grey. And on some of these, that pale colour has a slightly pinky tinge to it. And that one is, it's not going to show up in this light, but sort of goes towards pinkiness. And they also had a colourway that was grey with pink. And same yarn, same base, and this is the Royal Botanic Gardens colourway. So my thought process was mostly the greys, and then this with the pink perhaps at the base. That's my thought process. That was all bought at a shop in London called Beautiful Knitters. And that's in Pimlico in London, so it's fairly central, fairly easy to get to. We caught the C10 bus. Told you I end up with throwing things on the floor. And if you're in the city, I would recommend it for a look around. Very nice, friendly staff. There are some lovely yarn shops in London, but there's one which shall remain nameless, but you will all recognise if you've been there, and the staff seem to feel as if you're doing them, they're doing you a favour by selling you yarn. Not the friendliest, whereas Beautiful Knitters, absolutely lovely. Nice little shop, lots of different brands, lots of different makers I'd not heard of before. Very friendly, helpful staff, so that was a very nice day. So yeah, I had that lovely day with Barb, and then we went and got some food, sat and chatting for a while over cups of tea, you know, just really lovely to spend time with her. And thank you, Barb, for giving me part of your holiday time. I really appreciate it. That's where we're at the moment. I have today, I have started making a blanket using my circular sock machine. So when you do one of these, you make long panels, which are long tubes, and then you join them together. I was having a WhatsApp conversation with my sister-in-law, and we were talking about how chilly it is. And she showed me a photograph of a blanket that her grandmother had made her, but everyone wants a piece of it, including the cat, so I thought I'd make her another jumper. Last month you saw that I came into possession of a number of cones of yarn. The aunt of a friend of mine who sadly passed away. The aunt passed away, the friend thankfully still with us. And I thought I would use a couple of the cones to make this. So this is on the Addy Express King size, and you will see progress on it further in the month. Further progress on it. And you will see further progress on it later in the month. As I've lost the ability to speak, I'm going to stop this here. Cheers. Hello lovelies, hope everyone's well. I have been given more yarn, a fabulous Christmas, bit early Les, birthday gift from the wonderful folks at Attic Spin Dye. And look at these beauties, which came with a little witch's hat stitch marker. This is their Superwash Merino Yak nylon base, so 70-20-10, 100 grams, 400 meters in the Spice Market colourway. And the light is showing this on the brighter side of what it is, but it's just gorgeous. Let me hold it back a bit, that's probably a little bit more natural. Do the podcaster's hand thing. Just so pretty. So thank you very much, you lovely people. Just gorgeous, marvellous. Thank you. I don't know what else to say, but thank you. In the last clip, I showed you the first strip of the blanket that I was making. These are really quick projects. They look like a lot more work than they are. Just the sort of project we like. Hello, lovelies. This pile of squishiness is made up of 7 tubes, which I've cranked on my AliExpress king size, otherwise known as the Whirly Whirly machine. And I'm about to turn them into a blanket for my sister-in-law. Now, at this stage, they look very lacking in promise, but I'm starting to join the tubes together so that they become flat panels. So at the moment I'm just doing the bottom ends, and then I'll mattress stitch them together and all will be well, I promise. Okay, so we still have knitted tubes, large blanket snakes, but you can see that it is beginning to take shape as I mattress stitch almost smoothly the panels together. We're getting there. So I have finished this blanket. I'll put a picture here of it draped over my sofa so that you can see it in its full size. It's about sort of 5.5 feet square. Very thick and squishy, because where you're making tubes and then joining them together, you're basically squashing the tube flat and joining the two sides. So you've got a double thickness of your knitted piece. And the machines knit to a kind of, they knit best on a sort of worsted or Aran weight type yarn. So that's the sort of thickness we're dealing with. So this is a nice thick squishy blanket. I used a variety of yarns. I've got a piece of paper here. Last month viewers will have seen all those very kindly donated cones of yarn that I got from a friend's aunt after the lady had sadly died, and I decided they would be a good thing to use. This blanket is for my sister-in-law. She's much more subtle on the colour palette than I am, says she, who's wearing a grey commercially made cardigan. I mean, goodness sake, what kind of knitting podcaster am I when I haven't even got a hand knit on? But anyway, so I will go through these yarns. I don't know if any of them are still available because of the age of the stash. Sorry, I'm just pulling something nearer. The age of the stash that I was helping myself from, frankly. But I'll tell you what they are anyway. So on the edge we have two scale. I use three. Oh, start again, Leslie. On all of these stripes I use 3 strands of yarn together. So the edge ones are 2 strands of 4-cell velveteen in the harebell colour. It's a pale sort of bluey grey, and 1 strand of 4-cell chamal. I have the large, because they're round cones, ball bands. Each stripe used approximately 360 metres of each yarn, so 3 lots of 360 for each stripe, which means that the whole blanket used about 7,500 metres of yarn. But like I say, you've got 3 strands held together. So yes, so for the edges, 2 strands of the velveteen, which is very, very soft, and 1 of chamal. Then, where's my other bit of paper? Then I was using 1 of the velveteen. I realised after doing the first stripe or 2, I was kind of weighing the yarn, seeing what I had left. I realised I was not going to have enough to do the same all the way across. So this was 1 of velveteen, 1 of chamal, and 1 of Bramwell Fine 4-ply, which is an acrylic. I also had some peach coloured yarn. I don't know what it is. It's very pretty, but I don't know what it is. So the next had one of chamal, one of grey, and one of the peach, sort of unknown miscellaneous. Then I think the middle one was velveteen, grey and peach. And then I went back the other way. So, yeah. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 7 stripes, that's right. So 7 stripes, 270 rows each of the colours that I just said. So, as I say, the total yardage was meterage was 7,560 metres, which sounds a lot, but you can divide it by 3 if you were using worsted or Aran weight yarn. Now, it's a funny thing with these blankets. When you put them together, you start off by joining one edge, and you just, each stripe has a some waste yarn at either end, and you just go through, and with a crochet hook you kind of flatten the tube, and you pick up one stitch on one side, hook it through a stitch from the other side, then back again, then back again, then back again, take off the waste yarn, and you have your seam with just one loop, which you then take onto the next stripe, take onto the next stripe, take onto the next stripe, and so forth. That's fine. You then join the seams, the stripes, which I chose to mattress stitch them, but you can do a very similar technique again with a crochet hook, like a mattress stitch, but rather than putting a needle and thread through, you're picking up a loop between stitches with a crochet hook, then you're doing the same in the other tube. Easy peasy. So like I say, 270 rows. The machine has a row counter, so I know it's 270 rows, providing you remember to reset it to 0 when you've done your waste yarn, of course, but usually, you know, that's not a problem. And yet, when you join them together, they are not even. Oh, goodness. If this was, you know, if you were making a jacket or something and you wanted them even, then what you would do, and what I did partly undo with one of these, is just unpick the tube. And the experts on these things say don't seal up the top end of your tube until you've done your seams, for this very reason, because even where you have the same number of rows, you can have this slightly differing length. In my case, it may be due to differing yarn types. I mean, when I was mattress stitching it, you're kind of picking up 2 strands here, picking up 2 strands there. Again, you're kind of counting as you go, but there are tolerances and differences, so I'm not going to worry. And because this is a blanket which is to curl up over my sister-in-law and her cat and her son and husband if they want to steal it, I don't think they're going to worry that it has an uneven edge. I'm calling it a design feature. This bit's for the cat, basically. But yeah, so that was a bit of a surprise, because I've made a few of these blankets in the past. The last ones I made, I did, I think it was 40 rows of blocks of colour, so you're more aware as you're working along the stripe, joining them together, you've kind of got those points every 40 rows where you know if you've lined up or not, so that may be a factor. But this is where we's at, so this is what we've got. So this will go in the post to my sister-in-law. It's rather heavy. I need to work out the best way to get it to her, with an uneven edge. Never mind, never mind. It is a very warm blanket. I have washed it. I haven't blocked it because, you know, it's a blanket, but I did put it through the wash, because where these cones were of a vintage and had been stored for a long time, they did have a bit of a whiff of the charity shop about them, so I have given it a wash just to freshen it up, and I will send this off to my sister-in-law in the hope that it will help to keep her cosy. I think this is going to be my only FO this month. I will go through my works in progress next, so you can have a roundup of whips. So you can see what I've been working on, because I have made quite a lot of progress on some projects, but none of them finished. So I will show you that in the next and final clip. Cheers. Hello lovelies. I hope this isn't too bright. This is my usual knitting corner, but I'm at a slightly different angle to usual. Normally my chair's facing kind of that way, so I have all my gubbins behind me, by my side rather, all my knitting notions and that sort of thing, and this bookcase behind me. But we have the fire lit. Still haven't put the heating on yet, but we have lit the fire. I say we, I have lit the fire. Maybe I should call this section Fireside Chats with Auntie Les. Perhaps not. I'll just show you my works in progress instead. That'd probably be best. So I will show you one that you've already had sight of. This is the Eureka. Oh, the irony that I had to struggle to find that name. The Eureka by Nicola Suzanne. And a little while ago I did the Catty Corner sweater by Nicola Suzanne. And these designs, they don't require you to swatch. So you just start off with a very few stitches at the back neck, and then you've taken measurements of yourself, or obviously not yourself if you're making it for someone else, that would be silly. But you work down, increasing until you get to the size that you need according to the guidelines in the pattern. This is made of lace weight yarn, assorted lace weight yarn, being held either double or treble, depending on its thickness. And I am still, but I've nearly finished, knitting directly from the crochet piece that I made that didn't quite work out. I have now split for the sleeves, and I've just got a little, about an inch or so below there. I think when I get to the end of this piece I'm going to do the sleeves. I quite often do that with sweaters. I do the sleeves before I finish them. Sometimes it's because I'm seeing how much yarn I've got left, but I think I've got into that sort of rhythm of making garments. So that's that. Work in progress number 1. Work in progress number 2, I thought I might possibly have finished by today, but not quite. So where is my pattern? This is the Classic Knit Jacket by Pearl Soho. Now this is recommended to be made on a Pearl Soho yarn, unsurprisingly, which is their Feltro, and on 10mm needles, which are US 15, so very thick chunky needles. I am using some yarns that I had on cones. Now these are some of the cones that I bought a while ago at a local company who'd bought up a lot of Texair stock. These are my last 3, but I do have enough to do them all in the same yarn, or at least I hope I do, because where this is boucle and where it is chunky, it's going to be hard to find something in my stash which is comparable, but I'm fairly confident that I will have enough with these 3 cones that I have left. Now according to this, it's Texair Yarns Snazzy 45, Bluebell Loops and Gimps. I haven't been able to find this yarn online at all. Now I appreciate it's discontinued because the company is no longer in existence, but it doesn't appear to be on any databases. So I'm not entirely sure of what meterage I've got going on here, but I will, when I have some leftovers, I'll measure and weigh them to give me an idea of how much I've used. And what I've done with this, after saying I normally do the sleeves first, I didn't in this case. So I have the back and fronts done. Now from memory it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and you start at the shoulder, work down, and then pick up from that, work down the front, and then join to instead of splitting for the sleeves, you join for the body. I sort of had a quick try on at that point, and I found the depth of the armhole quite shallow. So I added another couple of rows, which is giving me a slightly odd shape armhole. Not one I'm going to worry about in the scheme of things. But this is where we're at so far. It has an I-cord edge. So I've done the I-cord edge for the fronts and the hem. I've also included in my I-cord edge a loop for a button. So now I'm just working down the sleeves. It's a set-in sleeve design. Working down the sleeves and then an I-cord for the cuff as well. So not much finishing to do on this apart from weaving in ends once I've finished the knitting. Like I say, I had hoped to get it finished in time for this month-end podcast, but was not to be. But I've just got half a sleeve and the other sleeve to do, and we should be fine. Because I don't know what the yarn is made of, I don't know how well it's going to block. I could set light to bits of it and try and work it out, but I like the adventure. So it feels quite heavy, heavy in a kind of cotton way almost. But then again, I have got 3 strands together, so it's possibly not designed to be knitted as densely as I have it. But I think it will be quite a useful garment. I like the colour. Blues are normally colours I'm quite comfortable with. So I shall look forward to finishing that. Hopefully not too long. Now there are some other bits and pieces I'm working on. I'm still making the snowflakes for the snowstorm cardigan / sweater. I'm about halfway through those. So a little behind where I intended to be, but you know, that's just what happens. But the last project I'm making, I am also going to have a bit of a deadline on. And this is for my little great niece. I say my little great niece because I have 2 great nieces. One is 11 and one will be 2 in November. And for the one who will be 2, now if I get it finished in time, which I'd like to, this will be a birthday gift. If not, it'll be a Christmas gift, or it might just be a Auntie Les Knits gift. But this is called, and the way I've printed this off, I've no way of knowing. I'll put it on screen. It's a coat. Oh, how silly. Okay. And you can see from the picture that it has a skirt with a sort of textured pattern leading to a bodice and a collar with a little lace edge and a little lace edge at the cuff as well. I'm probably not going to make this as long as the original. I will make it quite a long coat, but not floor length. I don't think that's kind of needed, really. The yarn I'm using, more cones, and these are 2 of the cones that I was very kindly given last month by the lady who was sorting out her aunt's stash. So I've got a cone of whatever this is. I suspect it's a Bramwell 4-ply of some description. And I've also got this cone, which is called Mosaic, 20% mohair, 80% acrylic, from Christiana Wools. Now this is very fine. This is a lace weight. This is a sort of 4-ply weight. I wasn't sure what weight of yarn I would be creating with this. And just looking at the original pattern, it's a worsted weight. The original suggestion is Plymouth Baby Alpaca worsted. And it's made on, the main body is on a 4.5mm needle, so a US size 7. So I've started off swatching, yes, I swatched again, using the 4-ply and 2 strands of the lace weight together, and that was coming up thicker than I needed. So I've changed it to the lace weight and 1 strand of the, 1 strand of the lace weight and the 4-ply. And this is where I'm at so far. So this is that lovely textured skirt. Got this, I think they call it a German herringbone chevron pattern, or something like that. I've got stitch markers at every pattern repeat because I just find that easier to keep track. It's a fairly straightforward pattern. It's a 6-row repeat, I think, and pretty easy to read. So once you've done it a couple of times, certainly no more than 3 or 4 times, you can kind of read it and you know what's happening. So that's pretty good, but given the number of stitches and the texture, it's a slowish bit. So I'll keep ploughing on with this. Once I get onto the bodice and sleeves of the coat, it'll be pretty quick, I think. But that's where we're at. So those are my sort of main whips. Those are the items I've been doing the most work on. The lace weight one, the Nicola Suzanne pattern, I'm going to go back to keeping that at my desk when I'm checking things on my PC. That's when I'll knit on that. It is still the most portable project I've got. This month I went to Cornwall to visit family, and that was the project I took with me because everything else I'm making is working from cones. So it then makes it much bulkier for transporting and for sort of knitting on the go, particularly as we were travelling by train, so there is a limited amount of space. So if I need a portable project, that will be it, but otherwise that's going to be sitting in my office. The other two, I'm just going to keep going. Hopefully I'll get the blue jacket for me finished pretty quickly so I can put that one to bed and then crack on with my great niece's coat. Those are the plans. So that, I think, is pretty much it. I've been crafting fairly regularly, just haven't been getting through kind of milestones of having things done, apart from that blanket, which is a big piece, but is quick because it's on the machine. I had a message from my sister-in-law today. It has arrived and she's very happy with it, so that's good news. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. So end of October. What does November bring? November brings something that I'll talk about in the November podcast, which is a course that I'm taking. I'm also going away with some friends, so that will be good. Have a few days away with them. Looking forward to that. And apart from that, it's just counting down to Christmas. Writing Vlogmas songs, probably. Yes, I'm going to inflict it all on you again. So I will be doing Vlogmas this year. I always go into it saying I don't guarantee doing it every day. I usually end up recording every day, but I just like to give myself a little bit of leeway in case life gets busy and it's not possible. But this year I do have my homemade Advent to open, and that is kind of Advent Plus because it's yarns that I put together, and I was completely right in that I have very little memory of what's in these individual packages, but also there were memories to think of and ideas of little things to do that I enjoy. So hopefully when we get to that point, that will be a good thing and will be a little bit to record every day. However, I am wishing my life away because it's only the end of October at the moment, and that's over a month away. So I'm planning for it. I'm not living it yet. So we should live now. This is what we have. Yes, it's been a difficult month. We've had a dear loss in our knitting group, as many of you know, and that is horrible. Sorry, buzzkill at the end. Yes, I mean, we've got lots of great memories, and they are great, so that's all good. But, you know, life is light and dark, cool and warm, all of those things. It's the blend that makes it what it is. So stop trying to be a philosopher, Leslie. So whatever you're doing for November, I hope that it brings you joy. I hope you get time to do the crafting that you like, and that you are having fun and keeping well. I know a lot of people have been going through surgery and treatment for various conditions, so I hope that everything is going smoothly and moving in the right direction, and that people are keeping safe from flu, from COVID, from whatever. I had my COVID booster yesterday, and the person who gave me the injection said, in terms of aftercare, keep hydrated, that helps, and also use your arm as much as possible as you normally would, because that aids the recovery. And it does feel a bit kind of bruised. When I sort of lift my arm up, I can feel it. But using my arm as normal, keeping hydrated, that's knitting and tea, isn't it? So that sounds like a good way to spend my time. So yes, take care everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your comments and thoughts. If you're taking part in the make along, lovely to see all your entries on there. And thank you for being part of this bit of the knitting community. You are very, very much appreciated. Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye bye.